Hello, I'm Paul Clark from figuringoutdata.com. In this BizTech Tech Talk, I'm going to be talking about data visualization, in particular a challenge faced by smaller business owners who use accountancy packages such as Xero, FreshBooks or QuickBooks. Those packages are great for giving you the numbers behind the business, but not so good at telling you what's going on, what numbers are going up, what's going down, how long, how fast, what sort of trends you're looking at. Visualizing data really helps, and a good place to start is in Excel. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to export data from one of those packages, Xero in this case, import it in Excel and visualize it to discover more about what's going on. Okay, let's make a start. Okay, we're now in Xero. And in Xero, I've selected a demo company. This is a fictitious company provided by Xero for training purposes, and it contains enough data for our purposes. The report that you see is one of transactions. It's called the General Ledger Detail Report, and you find it from the accounting menu at the top and the reports menu item there, which opens up a full library of reports. Every accounting package will have a similar library of reports. The only adjustments I've made, I have deselected two of the accounts that you see displayed. I've deselected the business bank account, the business savings account, but left the other accounts in place. I've set in place a date range which represents the last 2 financial years. I've left a default setting of 10 columns selected, which are the 10 columns you can see, and I've not grouped this in any way at all. So all that's left for me to do is to updating, just in case I haven't got the latest settings saved, and then I go to the export button down at the bottom right hand corner. Xero offers me Excel, Google Sheets or PDF. You might, in your accounting package, also have CSV, which stands for Comma Separated Variable, which is a text file which imports quite happily into Excel. I'm going to choose Excel, and as soon as I've selected Excel, then my Downloads folder opens up. I'm in Windows, so I have a Downloads folder, and I can save the name of the file. Demo Company UK, General Ledger Detail, and save. So the next step now is to go into Excel, import that file, and we'll start to look at it using visualization tools. Okay, we're now in Excel. If you recall, the file we exported from Xero was an Excel workbook. I've simply opened that workbook in Excel, and there are the columns of interest. Xero has also given us some rows at the top containing headers, and if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see rows at the bottom containing totals. I'm going to delete those rows as they're not needed for the visualization task. I shall highlight them at the top under Home. On the right, I have a delete icon there. I shall click on delete, and if I go to the top, I shall do the same. Highlight the rows and then click on the delete column. That leaves us with our columns and our column headers. Now in data in this format, the best tool to use for visualizing it is the pivot chart. Stay clicked into the table there, go to insert at the top, and in roughly about the middle, you'll see some chart options there. And the one to the right is the pivot chart. Select on pivot chart. And the pivot tool will identify straight away the range of data that which is of interest. You can see there that it's identified cells A1 through to J95, which is what we want. The other selection I'm going to leave in place is that we're going to create a new worksheet for the chart. So if I click on OK, a new worksheet appears. And we have some frames on the right which contain the column headers and placeholders beneath that, which are needed in order to build the chart. On the left, we've got a canvas, a blank canvas, which I'll make larger to contain the chart. Now let's say I want to plot the numbers in the debit column against the date column, for example. To do this, I can click on my debit column header in the frame at the top right, and then drag it down to the values placeholder down at the bottom right, and you'll see that it's now provided us a very simple default column chart in which it is simply summed all the values in the debit column. If I want to now split this out by date, I can do that by dragging the date down, date column down, and placing that in the axis placeholder. And you'll see here that it's offering us an opportunity to split it out by the actual date itself. If I move that date to the top, you'll see that it splits it by the actual date, which is probably a bit too complex for us to use. So I shall take that back down to the bottom again, and I might, for example, bring months to the top, and that will then be a display of the figures in the debit column dimensioned by months. So we're starting to get our data visualized in a way that it's quite difficult to do in the accountancy package. Now you'll see in the top left here there's a table. This is called a pivot table, which accompanies the pivot chart, and it presents the data that is used to populate the chart. So every time you move a placeholder in the pivot chart to fields on the right, you will see that table change, and the reason it changes is simply because it is populating the chart and it needs to change its in structure in order to populate the chart. But let's have a look at how we can put a bit more information into this. I've got my chart highlighted. Because I've got it highlighted, in the menu at the top I've got pivot chart, analyze, design and format, and are now new tabs which have appeared specifically for this chart. If I go to design, you'll see I can change the chart type. I'm going to change it to a stacked column. That allows us to put a little bit more information into this chart in a fairly efficient way. So for example, we've got the numbers in the debit column now split out by month, but if I now want to see different colors to represent, for example, the different account types contained in the data, I can take my account column header and I can drag that down to the legend placeholder, and you can now see how we are getting more information contained within the chart. If I move this over to the right, you can see the legend on the right there, and that legend is also an opportunity to filter this data as well. So for example, I might not wish to have accounts payable, accounts receivable in this, and perhaps sales and VAT can come out as well. So we can then start to dimension this chart so it's a little bit more informative. That being said, you can see straight away that this is not a great example for visualization, because the demo company that this is coming from is clearly not a real company. It doesn't have real numbers in it, which is why we have some rather makeshift displays such as this one. However, hopefully that's been sufficient to show you the tools that are available if you're able to export data from one of your accountancy packages and import it into Excel. You've got the pivot chart tools available with which you can slice and dice your data and see it visually accordingly, and start to understand from that now where the trends are, what numbers are going up, what's going down, how far, how fast, that sort of thing. Okay, thank you very much for listening.